I'm Sam.
I'm Lance.
And we are Love to Hate.
And today we are doing a Kickstarter preview on two games. Both of these come from Sunrise Tornado. These are games that are in their new set of games called Sunrise Market. There's going to be 3 of them, and we were given 2 to preview. We have 1, 2, 3 Cheese, which is a simple card game for families. And then we have Boba Mahjong, which is a card game for 2 players. And so right now we're going to go over the different rules for both of these games. Then we'll come back and share our thoughts on both of them and tell you a little bit of what a gamer and non-gamer thinks about these 2 games.
All right, I have 1, 2, 3 Cheese on the table here. This is from designer Tate Wu and Sunrise Tornado Games. It is for 2 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, and it is a true family game in every sense of the word. Let me explain to you how this game works. You're going to have a deck of cheese cards that you are going to deal out as evenly as possible to the players at the table here, and we are set up for 3 players. You can play up to 5, as I mentioned here. The other 2 meeples are off right there, holding up the box so that it doesn't fall over. And I do want to say that everything that you see here is prototype. The final artwork, components, and rules may change than what you see here. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and let you know that this score track right here is different already than what I've received. The rules have changed as far as how many points you're going to earn at the end of a round. So just keep that in mind. And I have already divvied up the cards here as best evenly as I can. And here we go. So all players are going to place in front of them 1 card that is going to be their stash card. And so they're going to flip this over simultaneously, everyone revealing what is in their stash. And so what players are trying to do, they are trying to get rid of their cheese. The theme here is that you have stolen some cheese and now you're on the run and you need to get rid of the cheese as fast and quick as possible. And so your cheese is what is in your hand, but also what is in the stack there in front of you. You want to try to get rid of cards as much as possible. And so in this game, you're going to have different suits, different colors, and the numbers are going to range from 0 to 5. And how this game works is whoever's going to be the first player is going to play a number of cards from their hand, and they can either do drop, cheese, or gobble. Now, drop is that a player has a number of cards that they can play that are all the same number. And so you can see there a set of 2s there. They've got 3 2s. Now, the number that you are playing has to be either equal to or higher than the card that you are playing on top of. And you really don't want to ever play on the card in front of you because, again, you want to try to get cards out of your stack. So if I were to play on this pile right here, I would have to play 4 or a 5, whereas over here I could play 3, 4, or 5. And I could play any number of cards that are all the same number. That is drop. Now, cheese is playing a run of cards, and you have to play at least 3 or more, and they can be the same run. Now, they have to be the same color as the card that I'm playing on top of. So again, if I played here, it would have to be a run of 3 or more that is all in green, or a run of 3 or more that is all in red. And that is cheese. Now, the last thing I could do is gobble, and you're going to want to do this sparingly, and it's kind of a last-ditch thing that you could do if you weren't able to do either of the other 2, and that is take the top card of any stash in front of you, or any player, excuse me, and then you play a different card on top of your stash. And so that doesn't really help too much because you are adding a card into your stash and you're taking a card from someone else's stash, but you are maybe getting a card that works better for you on a future turn. Now, as you can see right here, zeros are going to be treated as any number, and you can play them in the same color as the stash. So zeros are kind of like wild numbers. Whereas 5s are super wild, and it kind of resets the pile. You can treat it as any number and any color of your choice. There are also 2 of these in the deck, and these are pretty much the same thing as 5s. They can be any color or any number, and they reset a stash. And that's pretty much the gist of the game. The round ends when a player deals or divvies out all the cards in their hand, and then players will count up any cards that they have left in their hand as well as cards in their stash, and you are going to score a number of points depending upon how many cards were in your hand and stash combined. And again, these points here are not going to be the points that are awarded at when the final product is released, so just keep that in mind. But you will keep track of player points here on this score track right here, and you will repeat the process here with the start player being whoever is in last place, and the game will end when a player gets up to 12 points, and whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. And that is how you play 1, 2, 3 cheese. All right, I have Boba Mahjong on the table here. This is from designer Tate Wu and Sunrise Tornado Games. It is for 2 players, ages 10 and up. Everything you see in this segment of the video is going to be prototype. The final artwork, component, and maybe even the rules will be different when it is released, so just keep that in mind. Let me show you how this game works. It has similarities with the game Mahjong, if you're familiar with that, as that is part of the name here, obviously. But in this game, you are going to set up for 2 players, because it is a 2-player game, having 3 discard piles that are going to be here in the middle of the table. You've got your deck of cards that you're going to be drawing from, and these are your scoring cubes, and these are going to represent increments of 5 points. And so we'll come back to that here in just a second. But what you are doing is you are creating a boba tea, and each different color suit of cards here is a different flavor of tea, as you have green tea, and blue is going to be the oolong tea. And so also on the different cards are going to be numbers ranging from 0 to 8. There are also going to be a special suit of toppings that are going to have special abilities on them that you can do throughout the course of the game. Now, players are going to be dealt 5 cards in their hand, and on your turn, you are simply going to follow what is on the turn order card here. So the first thing you are going to do is draw, and you have 2 different options. You can draw 2 cards from the supply, or take the top card from any one of the mixing piles, which are essentially the discard piles. So again, you can take 2 from the supply or any one from the top of these 3 piles, putting it into your hand. Then the second thing you'll do is you can either draw again, repeating step 1, or you can create sets, and you'll create up to 3 sets. Now, a set is going to be 3 cards straight of any color. So you could say 2, 3, 4 is a straight, and even though they are different colors, that does not matter. Or you can do 3 of a kind, and again, of any color. And so you could have, say, 3 2s, and I could have this 2 here, another 2, and pretend I had another 2, because your set can come from either 3 cards in your hand, or 2 from your hand and 1 from a mixing pile. So I don't have to have all 3 cards in hand. I can have 2 and then take 1 of the top cards from a mixing pile. And then lastly, a set can also be any 3 topping cards. Now, after you create a set, you're going to play that face up in front of you in your player area, and you're going to keep 1 card from the 3 card set that you just made as a scorecard. And we'll come back to what a scorecard does here in just a second. But you'll discard the other 2 cards to the mixing piles, placing it on top of any one of the piles you choose. And again, you can create up to 3 sets, so you can do this 3 times if you would like to. And then at the end of your turn, you're going to discard down to 7. And then it'll be the other player's turn, and this will go back and forth until someone has 5 scoring cards that they have kept in front of them after they have made sets, because again, you keep 1 card from a set as a scorecard. Once a player has 5 or more scorecards, then the other player will get 1 last turn to go, and that will be the end of the round. And then you'll look on this card right here to determine how many points your scoring cards are worth, as you can score up to 6 cards from your scoring cards. And so the different things that you are trying to achieve is freshness and having the same number, whether that's 0 or 1 through 8. Now, Zero, let's go back to that for just a second. Zero can be a wild card, wild number. And so it can count as any number you want when creating runs, so like 1, 2, 3, or 3 of a kind. So again, let's go back to our 2s here. This would be a set. I would have 3 2s as I could count this 0 as a wild. Now, when you are scoring cards, 0 is just 0. It's not a wild number anymore. And if you have 2 of the same numbers in your scoring cards, that's worth 3 victory points. If you have 3, it's worth 6. And if you have 4, it's worth 10. Now, the next thing you'll look at is straights. And so for however long the straight is, whether that's 3, 4, 5, or 6 cards, you will get the corresponding victory points that you see there. And then you'll look at your toppings. However many toppings you were able to garner in your scoring cards is going to give you a number of victory points. And then lastly, you'll look at presentation, whether it's the same color. If you've got 3 of the same color, 4 of the same color, or 5 of the same color, you'll score those victory points. Or different colors. If you've got 4 different colors, you'll get 3 points. And if you've got all 5 different colors, you'll get 6 points. Now here's the catch with this game. You only get scoring tokens in increments of 5 points. And so you're trying to get either 5, 10, 15, 20. You get the idea, because if you don't get an increment of 5 points, those points are just wasted. So like for instance, if you have 9 points, you're only going to get 1 cube for the first 5 points you scored. The second 4 points that you scored are wasted. Now, if you were to get 10, you would get 2 cubes. So you can see there what you're trying to do in this game is score enough to get to the next increment of 5 points. Now, the winner in this game is the first player to get at least 6 scoring cubes. And if it's a tie, then you go to whoever scored the most points in the final round. And that is how you play Boba Mahjong. Let's go back up top and we'll share our thoughts on this one.
And we're back. And right now we're going to share our thoughts on 1, 2, 3 Cheese. So Sam, this was a game that we ended up getting to play with our kids. We played with our 2 oldest. We tried playing with our 3rd oldest, but he's only 3, so it wasn't something that he could really grasp. But we played with our 9-year-old. We played with our 6-year-old. And I felt like they really understood it. They understood what they were doing. They needed, our 6-year-old needed a little bit of help understanding, just exactly how she could play her cards. Yeah. But, after we helped her the first 1 or 2 times, I felt like she really understood it. She even won a game. Yeah. And so this was one that I felt like really went well with our family. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. It's definitely a fun one to play with the kids.
Mm-hmm. It has bright colors to it, nice artwork, a funny theme. Cheese, mice that are trying to steal cheese, but they're also trying to get rid of it because they don't want to get caught with too much cheese. I thought that was humorous. Worked really well. It could be considered a kid's game, being that kids can play it with you, but at the same time, I thought it was a very enjoyable experience, even as an adult.
Yeah.
Was it fun?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
As far as rule set go, and what were your thoughts on that?
No, I don't think it was complicated at all. I mean, especially for our 2 of our children to be able to play it on their own.
Yeah, I agree with that. Easy concept. You're given 3 choices to do on your turn, whether you're going to play a set or play a run. You want to try to get cards out of your hand, out of your deck in front of you, your pile, get it into other people's piles. That's a very easy concept. Very nice, polished, even elegant perhaps, because it's just a simple idea, simple deck of cards. And then, you get points based off of how many cards you have left over. Thought that was a pretty cool idea. Yeah. Doesn't take very long. I think, the box doesn't say here, but I think the rules say that it takes maybe about 20 minutes or so. I think that's probably pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think so.
You play several rounds trying to get to 12 points to be the first one there. Really nice, polished game here. I really thought it was a good game. Any other thoughts you have on 1, 2, 3 Cheese?
No, I thought it was great. I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's always a bonus for us when we can incorporate our kids into it. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's move on to Boba Mahjong, which is a game for only 2 players. This is a game that you and I primarily played together. We didn't play this with the kids. It's maybe a little more complex than 1, 2, 3 cheese. You are trying to score in increments of 5 there.
Yeah, I think the playing the game isn't too difficult, but it's a scoring that could really probably not great for our kids.
Yeah, and then also just knowing which cards to keep for scoring is the biggest part with this game.
Yeah, that was even hard for us.
Because you really have to think in advance of what it is that's going to get you over the bump to get to the next 5-point increment to do well in this game. And so you're really planning that out from the very first set that you make. Or at least that's how it was for me. Like, oh, I'm getting a red one right now. So do I want to go straight reds and get as many reds? Do I want all the 2s because this one's a 2? Or do I want to try to get a run? Like, you have to start asking yourself those questions from the very get-go with this game. For me, I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed Boba Mahjong. This was a game that hit it in all the right spots for me, even though it's just a 2-player game. Oftentimes with 2-player games, I feel like these are okay experiences. I enjoy being able to play games with you. But for me, this knocked it out of the park as far as a 2-player experience. What were your thoughts on it, Sam?
Yeah, I would completely agree. I really enjoyed it. It was a little bit complex, trying to figure out the scoring stuff. I don't think I did very well in the game.
So in a lot of our games, what we often experienced was we would get 8, 9 points.
Yeah.
And I think the scoring is geared just on that way
we were
purposely.
very, very close, I think, till the very end.
We often tied in a lot in rounds, and it was just maybe one round in the entire game that caused some separation there, and somebody won. I thought that was enjoyable experience. It was exciting. It was constantly feeling like, well, I've got to match what you're doing, otherwise it's all going to fall apart for me.
It's a lot to keep in your brain. Like, you really have to make the decision to, okay, I'm not going to focus on this one thing. I am going to focus on this one thing. Yeah. Because there's no way to do it all.
Yeah. Now, Sam, I heard you say a few times when we were playing this game that it was frustrating for you.
Yes.
And I want to know more on your thoughts on that.
I think it's a good frustration. It's I'm so close to being able to do this. I need one more turn.
Yeah.
I think that we've played lots of games in the past where you're like, oh, I need one more round. I need to complete this. I need to do better. So it's a frustration that gets you motivated to do more. It's not a frustration to where I'm done with this. It's not going my way.
Yeah.
I think it can go both ways. But in this case, it was I want to do better.
Almost addicting for me, because I completely agree with that there were so many times where I would get 9 points, 9 points, 9 points. And it almost felt like Tate, the designer of this game, designed the scoring purposefully so that it would work out that you would get 9 points. Yeah. Almost to say, you thought you were going to get it, but you didn't. I really enjoyed that. It made me want to come back the next round and say, okay, well, I'm going to do it differently this time and see if I can't get 10 or maybe even 15 points. And for me, that was really cool, a really enjoyable experience, and one that, keeps me wanting to come back to it. This has staying power for me.
Yeah.
And guys, it's a little tiny deck of cards, so you can take this just anywhere with you and play it anywhere, anytime. So that is Boba Mahjong and 1, 2, 3 Cheese, a part of the Sunrise Market Games, coming to Kickstarter. So make sure to check that Kickstarter link down below now that you've watched our video.
Make sure to like and subscribe and push that bell button so you get notifications of all our new content.
I'm Lance.
I'm Sam.
And we are Love to Hate, where we try to bridge the gap between gamers and non-gamers. We'll catch you next time.